Dig it.
Welcome back, 877-84 Roger, on the web at rogerhedgecock.com, Twitter at Roger Hedgecock, Facebook page is the Roger Hedgecock Show. If we have the congressman, Bill Johnson is a congressman from Ohio, District 6, and we're talking to him today about the reaction to this tax hike threat from the Obama administration as delivered by the number 4 Democrat in the Senate, Patty Murray of Washington State. Congressman, welcome to the program.
Hi, Roger. How are you?
I'm fine, sir. And you? How you doing today? This is amazing that we've had this direct threat to raise taxes on everybody unless you cough up the rich people.
Well, yeah. Isn't that something? I mean, you know, it never ceases to amaze me. Just when you think the silly season has reached its peak, it goes to yet another level.
Doesn't this business of the what you do with the tax cuts originate in your house?
You know, I can tell you this much. You know, we have known since the founding of our country, when you let the American people keep more of what they earn, Roger, that's when we prosper. That's when we grow. That's when our economy kicks into high gear. The president, in his attempt to tax the job creators, as well as his statements of recent that people who worked hard to start their businesses didn't do it by themselves, that it took the government to help them get there, and that they owe their success to someone else. I mean, that is just the silliest thing that I have ever heard in my life, and it's reflective of the contempt that he's got for America's job creators. And it's evident in the fact that we've seen 41 plus months now, 41 months with unemployment above 8%.
Congressman Bill Johnson. Now, Congressman, will the House of Representatives vote to extend the current tax rates another year?
Well, we certainly want to.
No, but will you? You're in charge. No, Mr. Johnson, you are in charge. You have the majority. Whatever you want to do, you should do because you have the votes. Are you going to do it?
Well, that's our attempt to do it. That's what we're planning to do. But now, keep in mind, you know, we got to get that through the Senate.
No, well, let me just talk about the House. Is it your position now? Can you tell us now that Speaker Boehner has scheduled a vote on extending the current tax rates into next year?
Well, Roger, I can't speak for the Speaker, but I can tell you that we're going to address the tax hikes, and it's our intent to extend those tax cuts for all Americans.
And that's what we want you to do, but I'm asking a specific question. Has such a vote been scheduled to your knowledge?
I do not know the date of the vote, but it's my understanding that we're going to be making such a vote, yes.
Okay, good. Now, that's what I wanted to know. In other words, people deserve to know that the House of Representatives, their House, is going to take action here, regardless of what the other portions of government do, that we've got to rely on the House to do the right thing and to raise the banner.
That's exactly right, and we're going to do that.
Well, we're happy to hear it, because I'll tell you, today's a declaration of war on the American people. It was literally a stand and deliver moment when Patty Murray says, we're going to just let everything go up so that next year all we're talking about are tax cuts.
Well, and I think that's a sad testimonial from a member of the Democrat-controlled Senate that has done nothing to get America's economy going, in spite of all the 30 to 40 jobs bills that we've sent them in the last year and a half.
And Congressman Bill Johnson's with us from Ohio. And Congressman, I want to play for you, because this didn't happen all that long ago. In 2010, the same debate about whether to extend the current tax rates went on, and they were extended. And they were extended for reasons that were, in fact, declared by President Obama himself. Here's the question and answer on this exact point 2 years ago.
Again, I am just listening to the consensus among people who know the economy best. And what they will say is that if you either increase taxes or significantly lowered spending when the economy remains somewhat fragile, that would have a destimulative effect, and potentially you'd see a lot of folks losing business, more folks potentially losing jobs. That would be a mistake when the economy has not fully taken off.
Okay, so the economy has not fully taken off today, 2 years later.
Sure.
We have the same situation, and yet the president is proposing, and Patty Murray is demanding, tax cuts on the so-called rich, and that's the only way that the rest of us are going to get any kind of relief from increased taxes. They're not even talking about cutting our taxes. They're just talking about continuing the rates we have today into 2013.
Sure.
But we have to give up rich people.
Exactly. And let's talk about what that really means for a second, Roger. 50% of those people that make more than $250,000 a year as a couple. Remember now, they are our job creators. 50% of those people get 25% of their income from pass-throughs through their subchapter S or LLC corporations.
Right.
So you're talking about taxing America's job creators. You're talking about job-killing policies here that the president and Patty Murray and Nancy Pelosi and their allies want to perpetuate on the American people, on top of the fact that we've already got the largest tax, perhaps one of the largest tax increases in American history that's continuing to go into effect now in Obamacare. So, I mean, it's an absolute travesty that this administration and the Senate Democrats believe that taxing the American people more is what's going to get our economy going.
Well, that's exactly right. Now, there is a poll out that says, and you should know you're on the right side of this issue, no need to play defense here. We ought to go on offense, because there is a poll out that says that Americans strongly oppose Obama's tax hike on the so-called, as he defines it, rich. 52% of registered voters saying they want all the tax cuts extended. 43% want the cuts extended just for incomes below Obama's threshold. So if you look at the numbers, the public is, not by a very large margin, but by a pretty substantial margin, pretty much in the same wavelength. We've got to go on the offensive here, Mr. Johnson.
I agree, Roger, and I can tell you that the numbers are even higher than that in my very conservative district here along the Ohio River, where the unemployment rate is still in double digits in many places.
Wow.
We hold telephone town halls quite often, and we ask probing questions, and we've asked the people in my district what they think about the tax cuts, what they think about the president's plan to tax the wealthy, and I can tell you the numbers are even more staggering, the number of people that disagree with this administration's policies.
Bill Johnson with us from the House, Ohio District 6. Now, Congressman, there's another aspect to this, and that's the question of the so-called one-year extension of the current rates. Even if that were to pass and get approved, it's just one more year, and everybody's having trouble with the uncertainty of that. And people in business can't plan when, 1 year it might be one rate, and the next year it might be another. And by the way, these rates that Obama's talking about, the top federal rate on personal income goes from 35 to 39.6, plus 0.9% in the payroll tax for Medicare. And if you depend on dividends, that's going to increase from a current rate of 15% to 43.4%, and that's before you get to Obamacare's add-ons. So
right.
This is a terrible situation in which even if we get what we want, which would be extension of the current tax rates, if it's only for 1 year, why do it? Why isn't it 10 years or 50 years?
Well, I think it ought to be permanent myself, and there are many of us in the House of Representatives that feel that way. But you know as well as I do, because you've heard what Patty Murray has said, and you're going to hear the same thing from Harry Reid, I'm sure. They're not going to support that. So getting a permanent, making these tax cuts permanent, and you hit the nail on the head just a few minutes ago. Let's remember, these are not the Bush tax cuts any longer. These are America's tax cuts because the Democrats and the president signed on to them. They agreed to them. They now belong to all of us, and we all we have the ownership of them. We need to make them permanent, but if we can get them extended for another year until we can get some decent leadership in the House or in the Senate and the White House, we'll take that over letting them expire. That's for sure.
Well, I want to hear about when that vote's going to be held in the House. We want to get people mobilized to support it. We want the House to stand firm like they did on Obamacare. You folks have stood up on Obamacare, and you've said no, 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 and you've voted to repeal. Now that, sure, everybody can poo-poo whether it's going to happen in the Senate, but that's the point of the election, isn't it?
That's exactly right. November 6th is the day that the American people get to speak, because the Supreme Court does not get the final say. The American people gets the final say.
That's exactly right, and we're aiming at that date. I'll tell you, all hands on deck. All leaves have been canceled. Bill, we're on the warpath out here in support of everything we just talked about.
All right, brother. Thank you so much, Roger.
I appreciate it. We'll be talking. Thanks. I'm Roger Hedgecock. Back after this.